Okay, family, Shabbat Shalom, and welcome to another edition of the GOCC Sabbath. As you can see, myself and Elder Rawchaa are filling in for Elder Rawchaa, who hopefully will be back, if it be the Lord's will, next Sabbath. But for today, we will be filling in. Before we get started with anything, I first want to make sure that you all can hear and see nice and clearly. And when that's established, we'll get right into it with a few announcements that we'll make before and after we start. In the midst of that, obviously, we're going to be going into a detailed lesson that hopefully we'll be able to finish within the next hour and a half. But before we get into anything, let's first make sure you all are with us. Okay, great. Great. All right. Okay, so when it says the volume is low, let me try to adjust that very quickly. Okay. Let's try to make an adjustment on the sound so that we don't have to in the midst of it. And I'll just confirm with you all if this is much better. Okay, it may be low. I'm not up on the microphone. I'm a little bit away from the mic, so I'm going to make some adjustments, and you all just confirm. Someone says loud and clear. Okay, better now. Okay, great. Okay, so without further ado, let's get right into it. Again, we're here for another edition of the GOCC Sabbath lesson, and we do have, I believe, a very important lesson prepared for today. So, let's get into it. We're first going to start off with the Shema, which is, "Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is one." And then afterwards, we'll make a quick announcement concerning the Hebrew and Bible Academy. And then after that, we'll get into the lesson. Shema Yasha'Allah Ahaya Alahaya Nawa Ahaya Akkad.
Shema Yasha'Allah Ahaya Alahaya Nawa Ahaya Akkad.
Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is one.
Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is one.
Come on. All right. So, as I mentioned, for those who are interested in the upcoming academy, we're now accepting enrollments. And I say for the upcoming academy because in this academy we have about 2 weeks left. Tomorrow, if it be the Lord's will, we'll be covering an updated version of a lesson that we've had for years in the academy, that lesson being the 4 Beasts of Daniel. Now, just to kind of give you all some insight before the next academy comes, we're going to try to build upon that lesson even more and provide more updates on that particular lesson. But that lesson is updated and will be taught in tomorrow's lesson. Also, we have other lessons dealing with the Ark of the Covenant, which are fairly new to the academy. We've only had that for the past 2 academies, so that's still new, and that's something we still want to build upon. We also dealt with a lesson for the first time a few weeks ago titled Portals, which is a very profound lesson. And again, with every lesson that we have in the academy, we seek to try to improve upon it as time goes by. But these are some of the lessons that we have been covering in the past academy. Also, the truth about the fall between Adam and Eve, giving insight on some of the spirits that have entered in and have sought since the beginning of time to destroy the family structure, and how those spirits attack the man, how those same spirits attack the woman, and overall attack the family. So that's one of the lessons that we covered in the academy. Creation of the universe, giving you a detailed blow-by-blow breakdown of how the earth was created, how the heavens were created, how various things such as angelic bodies were created, the so-called solar system, how it was created, vegetation, and various things that we take for granted in this earth, mostly because we taught that those things sprang from nothing. Well, in the Bible Academy, we give you detailed insight on how those things were created and who created those things. So we have a plethora of lessons that we've taught and will continue to teach new, whether they're new lessons, brand new, never been taught, or lessons that we've touched on in the past that we update and add more detailed information to ensure that even those who have been in the academy for multiple times are getting something new with each enrollment. Speaking on that, for those who have been in other academies and have been in this present academy, you have noticed that we have added a lot of information and have changed some of how we teach even the Hebrew. Okay, a lot of that has been somewhat reshifted to make it much easier for those who are learning so that they have a better experience when learning the biblical Hebrew. Not to mention also, we know that we have the news segment with Elder Rawchaa and Elder Rawchaa, which keeps us updated on world events, what's taking place throughout the four corners of the earth, how it affects us, and its relation to the Bible. Okay? So, if you're interested in the upcoming academy, please go to historytimes.org. Again, that's historytimes.org, and that'll give you all the information you need to know on how to enroll in the Hebrew and Bible Academy. Now, without further ado, let's get right into our lesson, which we have prepared for this Sabbath. Again, we only seek to be here for about an hour and a half. And hopefully within that time, we're able to relay this information through the Spirit of the Most High. And this be a help to you and your family and your loved ones and those in your community who you're communicating with and are sharing this information with. Hopefully it will be of a great help. But just to get to the title of the lesson, the title is The Funding of Black Death. The Funding of Black Death. Okay? Now, there's many ways, or there's various ways I wanted to title this lesson, but for the sake of not trying to raise any either red flags, or one thing I don't want is that I cover for a lesson and then we come back, or Elder comes back to do the radio show and the page is gone. Okay? So what I try to do, I try to tame some of the titles, not wanting any red flags again to be raised up. But nonetheless, the information that will be taught, regardless of the title, hopefully will convey some of the ideas that I first considered when it came to the title. And hopefully you all will kind of get the gist and get a detailed understanding of what it is we're trying to convey about how billionaires, either billionaire individuals or corporations, are funding Black Death. Now, when we think of Black Death, obviously there's many ways that we as so-called African Americans and even so-called Latinos, Hispanics, and Native Indians, there's many ways that we're dying in this society. But there's one in particular that we're going to focus on in this lesson. And you'll see as we get into it which or what will be the focus of today's lesson, or what form of Black Death we're going to focus on. Okay? Now, there's a few things we're going to show you before we actually get into the scriptures. But to set this all up, we're going to get started. We're going to show you a few things, a few websites, a few video clips, and obviously I want to make this disclaimer that anything that we show, whether it be media, whether it be a website, whether it be audio, video, or what have you, everything that we will show is specifically for educational purposes only. Again, I repeat, any form of media that we will be showing is specifically for educational purposes only. Okay, now, let's get into it. All right, so what form of Black Death are we focusing on? We're focusing primarily on abortion. Okay, now when we speak of abortion, there's many angles we can take. But before we take on any angle, we first want to highlight an organization that many of you may be familiar with through personal experience or simply through research. You've heard of an organization that has become infamous for its associations with the practice of abortion, and more specifically, abortion as it relates to the black and the so-called black and so-called Latino community. Okay? And that organization is Planned Parenthood. Okay? So, for those of you who do know, and as well as for those who don't know, who may happen upon this for the first time, you may be asking yourself the question, what is Planned Parenthood? Okay? So we're going to hopefully help provide that information and give you some insight on what this has to do with Black death, or what they have to do with Black death. So what is Planned Parenthood? We're going to simply go to a Wikipedia website, and they're going to give us the insight on what Planned Parenthood is. We're going to stick mainly within this first paragraph. We're going to do a lot of jumping around, but nonetheless, there's a means to the end of what we're bringing out. So let's start off with what is Planned Parenthood. Elder Rawchaa, if you could read that.
What is Planned Parenthood?
You can start there where it says Planned Parenthood.
Planned Parenthood Federation of America Incorporated, or Planned Parenthood, is a non-profit organization that provides reproductive health care in the United States and globally.
So they provide what is called, this is a non-profit organization which provides what they call reproductive health care. Now you're going to find out that the term reproductive health care is a code word. And you're going to find out what that code word is. But for the sake of just getting some insight on what Planned Parenthood is, let's just stick here. It says that Planned Parenthood, or the Planned Parenthood Federation of America Incorporated, is a nonprofit organization that provides, quote unquote, reproductive health care in the United States and globally. Read on.
It is a tax-exempt corporation under Internal Revenue Code Section 501c3.
So this is a 501c3 tax organization, okay, or tax-exempt corporation, which means they can receive non-taxable donations or what have you, and those who donate to this particular organization can receive write-offs. Read on.
And a member association of the International Planned Parenthood Federation.
Okay.
Planned Parenthood Federation of America has its roots in Brooklyn, New York, where Margaret Sanger opened the first birth control clinic in the U.S.
Okay, so the origins of this federation or this organization are in Brooklyn, New York, where Margaret Sanger, now I want you to keep that in your minds, that name. Many of you are familiar with this name. Many of you are not familiar with this name. But I want you to keep this name in your mind because we're going to get some insight into the mind of Margaret Sanger and what her inspiration was as it pertained to what they call reproductive health care. We're going to find out through her words what that actually means. Okay? But reading on, it says here, it was started or has its roots in Brooklyn, New York, where Margaret Sanger opened the first birth control clinic. Read on.
In the U.S. in 1916, Sanger founded the American Birth Control League in 1921, which changed its name to Planned Parenthood in 1942.
So initially, it was called the American Birth Control League. So when we're talking about reproductive health care, or what they label reproductive health care, they're speaking primarily of birth control. Okay? Birth control being another term, or I guess you would say a segment or an arm of population control, as you're going to find out. So it was initially called the American Birth Control League in 1921. And in 1942, the name was changed to Planned Parenthood. Now, there's more information you can read up on Planned Parenthood, the origin of their organization, and the history of their organization, and leading up to today. But we're going to leave it there, and we're going to jump over, for the sake of time, into the mind of Margaret Sanger. I told you to keep that name in your mind so that we can get into her mind and get an understanding of what it is she believed and what her desires were in establishing the American Birth Control League, which was later referred to as Planned Parenthood. Many of you see this picture. Many of you have seen her before. You've heard of her before. But one thing I want to mention about Margaret Sanger and Planned Parenthood and her organization and her ideology is that she was not the only one. She is often the poster child for quote-unquote eugenics. She is the poster child of quote-unquote Planned Parenthood, but she was not the only one, meaning she was not a soloist. Okay? This was not an independent one-man army. Okay? There were many organizations. There were many individuals, very influential, what this society considers to be educated, well-renowned people who were involved in eugenics. And the work she did was just one segment of that. But there were many segments of eugenics. Okay? So, getting into the mind of Margaret Sanger. It says here, Margaret Sanger, founder of mega abortion provider Planned Parenthood. This is from the TFP Student Action. I know many people will say that this is biased because it's coming from an organization that stands for, as they say here, tradition, family, and property. I don't know much about this organization, so I can't speak for them necessarily, but what we can say is that they do have some information here about Margaret Sanger that you can find in many places. Okay, this is not exclusive to this website. Okay, so this is 21 quotes by Margaret Sanger that will probably make you sick. So the question is, what are these quotes? Before we get into these quotes, Elder Rawchaa, you can read the entry.
Okay, these quotes by Margaret Sanger, founder of Planned Parenthood, reveal the wicked roots of the abortion movement and expose the twisted mindset behind the present-day culture of death. In her own words, Sanger peddles racism, eugenics, contraception, abortion, while demonstrating a visceral hatred for children, parenthood, marriage, and the Catholic Church.
Right. So we're going to read this. It says here, Sanger peddles racism, eugenics, contraception, abortion, while demonstrating a visceral, meaning a strong hatred for children, parenthood, marriage, and the Catholic Church. Now, many of you will look at that and say, well, the Catholic Church, the Catholic Church, who are they? For someone to be angry with or to have some type of vitriol against. They're off as well. They're evil as well. Okay? But what you have to understand is that in this society, organizations such as the Catholic Church, they kind of stand as a symbol, okay, for the Christian faith. Not that they necessarily believe in the truth of the Bible or what have you, but in this society, when someone comes out and says that they're anti-Catholic Church or what have you, it's more so them being against a symbol, okay? Almost an image of what the Bible really stands for, even though they don't stand for the Bible, but to this world, they are an image of what the Bible stands for, okay? So these were the things that she stood for and stood against. Reading on.
If you want to open more eyes to the truth, please share these quotes far and wide. Only when the abortion agenda is fully rejected in our culture will America be ready to turn back to God.
Okay, so let's get some of her quotes. Okay, these are quotes, okay, that are attributed to Margaret Sanger. Let me make sure you all can see this. All right, let me adjust that. Okay. All right, I'm sorry. Just want to make sure you all can see this. Let me scroll down and adjust. All right. You can start, Elder Rawchaa.
Quote number 1, but for my view, I believe that there should be no more babies.
Right. So this is attributed to an interview with John Parsons in 1947, where she is cited as saying, or quoted as saying, But for my view, meaning for Margaret Sanger's view, she believes that there should be no more babies. Okay? This is coming from the mouth of the woman who is and who was the mind behind what is called today Planned Parenthood. Okay? Quote number 2.
The most merciful thing that the large family does to one of its infant members is to kill it.
Is to kill it. Now, when she says she believes there should be no more babies, that seems a little vague. Like, it seems like she's just saying she don't want babies in general. But you're going to find out that there's a specific class, a specific ethnic class of children that she believes should not be brought into the earth. There's a certain ethnic class of people that she believes should not have the right to reprocreate. You're going to find out what that ethnic class is. So when we read this, sometimes it seems like she's talking about the greater, I guess you would say, the greater population of all children, of all races, of all people. Well, no, that's not what eugenics was necessarily about. Okay, it was about rooting out specific ethnic groups to say that they are not fit to have children. Okay, that they do not produce good genes. They produce children that are prone to crime. They produce children that are prone to disease and sickness. And because of this, it has a profound negative effect on the greater society. Okay? So there are people who she does believe should be able to have more babies. And then there's others who she believes should not be able to have more babies. So now going back here to what Elder Rawchaa just read, it says the most merciful thing that the large family can do to one of its infant members is to kill it. Now, what does she mean by the large family? Is she talking about all types of families, all races of families? Well, you're going to find out what she means by the large family. Okay? Number 3.
We don't want the word to go out that we want to exterminate the Negro population.
What population?
The Negro population.
So there is a specific population that she believed should not be able to reprocreate. And that is specifically the Negro population. Okay? The Negro population. This is attributed to a quote from the letter to Dr. Clarence J. Gamble, December 10th, 1939. Okay? So when you hear her say that she believes that no baby should be born, what babies is she speaking about? The babies of the Negro population. When she says that the most merciful thing that the large family can do to one of its infant members is to kill it, which type of family is she talking about? She's talking about a member, or she's talking about a family of the Negro population. Okay? This was her focus. Okay, we'll just read a few more. We can't read all 21. We'll read a few more and move on to the next point. Number 4.
Number 4, I accepted an invitation to talk to the women's branch of the Ku Klux Klan. I was escorted to the platform, was introduced, and began to speak. In the end, through simple illustrations, I believe I had accomplished my purpose. A dozen invitations to speak to similar groups were offered.
Okay, so this is attributed to Margaret Sanger, an autobiography published in 1938, page 366. So yes, she was associated with, or she at least sat down with, the women's branch of the Ku Klux Klan. She expressed her beliefs as it pertained to being birth control and targeting certain aspects of American society, more specifically, the black family, the problems, or the quote-unquote problems they pose to the greater society by introducing these criminals into society, the disease-infested people into society, these mentally unstable people into society. Okay, these are all the things they would peddle as a means of getting people on board, getting various organizations on board to invest in and to be supportive of the idea of eugenics and birth control. Okay? Let's read one more and we'll move on.
I think the greatest sin in the world is bringing children into the world that have disease from their parents, that have no chance in the world to be a human, being practically delinquents, prisoners, all sorts of things just marked when they are born. That to me is the greatest sin that people can commit.
Right, so this is attributed to an interview with journalist Mike Wallace, 1957. I believe you can go on YouTube and actually watch this interview is documented and archived on YouTube. So you can go and watch that when you get the chance. Margaret Sanger interview with Mike Wallace. Okay? Now, many of you may read this quote and brush over it, believing that, I think this is in response to a question. It's been a while since I watched this interview. I believe this is in response to a question concerning, do you believe that it's a sin to murder or kill children? Something like that Mike Wallace asked her. And she responded by, the greatest sin is bringing children in the world who are delinquents and are prisoners from birth. And what you have to realize is that within eugenics, they believe, through what we would consider today pseudoscience, but this is what they were using, and you may find this popping up and rearing its ugly head in other forms of science when they say that someone has inherited behaviors. Okay? Meaning that because your father was a criminal, you from birth are destined to be a criminal. Your father was maybe a murderer or whatever the case may be, which means that from birth, you are predestined to be a murderer. Which means now, in order to eliminate murders from our society, something must happen with your father and with your mother before you have an opportunity to come into the earth. Because murderers beget murderers. Now, can that be true to some degree? Possibly. Okay. Is that always the case? Absolutely not. There's many traits that your parents carry, some of which are that you may pick up, okay? Not inherently, just because you're born and you have their bloodline, that automatically you're going to be or take on the attributes or inherit some of the bad behaviors of your parents. It's more so through habit. It's more so through what you see when you're growing up. It's more so through picking these things up through experience. Okay? But the whole idea that because your father may have committed a crime or whatever the case may be, that automatically you're going to commit crime and you're destined to commit crime from birth, that all goes back to eugenics. Which means that, listen, if your father committed crimes, then we have to cut your father off from the ability of producing more children. Okay? Which means we either have to do something to prevent your mother's ability of reproducing, or we have to do something to your father physically, surgically, or what have you, to prevent him from being able to produce more children. So now you understand, and I didn't necessarily plan to touch on this point, and I'm not going to touch on it, I'm just going to make this point. Now you see why there's a certain image projected of so-called blacks and Latinos on the television, on the radio, in the movie theaters, okay? And these so-called scholarly books and these works that may come out and may present these negative images of our people, okay? Making you believe that the only destination for a black man is dead or in jail. Where do you think these ideas come from? Is this naturally what we were born to become? Were we born for this to be our destination? Or is this information just repetitiously put before us and we somewhat become living prophecy? Okay? The only career for a black man is to be a drug dealer, a pimp, a pusher, a murderer, a mugger. Okay? Black women are only destined to be prostitutes and strippers and just lowlifes. Okay? Is this what we have been destined to become, or have these images they've been replicated so much and pushed on us so much that we began to kind of buy into the imagery? Okay? Now, I mention that because this is what's projected to us on a daily basis, it gives an image to the world to say that something must happen to stop the ability for these people to reproduce. Okay? Because listen, I watch Boys in the Hood. And according to Boys in the Hood, all they want to do, they want to drink 40s, even though that's back in the day. Okay? They want to drink 40s. They want to do drive-bys. They want to shoot each other. Okay? They want to get revenge. Okay? They full of that hot Negro blood. They just want to commit all levels of crime and self-destruction. Okay? You all seen Menace to Society. Okay? And I'm speaking from the standpoint of not just us. We can watch this stuff and we can differentiate because we're living in some of these experiences, and we know that that's just a small segment of the so-called black community. Okay? Everyone is not a criminal. Everyone is not a murderer. Everyone is not a hustler and a pusher. Okay? The large portion of black society are just hardworking people who want to live just like everyone else wants to live. Wants to provide for their family and the opportunity to provide for their family just like everyone else. But when the greater society, they see these images and they see the rap videos, okay? And they see all these various things in their mind. On one level, hey, it's entertaining, but at the same time, would I want this in my community? Would I want this to overrun and reproduce where I live? Absolutely not. Okay? So it is society's responsibility to make sure that these people cannot reproduce and do not reproduce, because look at them. When they reproduce, look at what they produce. Criminals, murderers, drug dealers, prostitutes, strippers, lowlifes, uneducated, diseased. Okay? Can't provide for themselves, can't fend for themselves. Okay? Prison inmates. Okay? This is the image. And all of that feeds into, quote unquote, eugenics. Okay? So, getting back on it, let's go on to the next point. All right, make sure you all are still with us. All right. Moving on to the next thing. So now, we know the mind behind the woman, Margaret Sanger, who started Planned Parenthood, which was initially called, as we go back here, the American Birth Control League. Okay, that's the original name, but it was changed to Planned Parenthood. This was her mindset. Okay, let's go back and read that again. Okay, number 3.
Number 3, we don't want the word to go out that we want to exterminate the Negro population.
So this was the end game. Now let's fast forward to so-called 2022, and let's see who they have as poster children, mascots for Planned Parenthood. What do you know? We're going to play this video very quickly. This is simply for educational purposes. Let me know if you all can hear it. I would not be able to hear it on my end. So just let me know if you can hear it. There we go. Educational purposes. Fair use. Our futures are abortions. The Supreme Court have left us in the dark. Planned Parenthood is going cross-country to shine a light on our rights. Bans off our bodies. Let's play it again. Fair use.
Parenthood is going cross-country to shine a light on our rights.
Ban off our bodies. You all see the Jedi mind trick. Okay? Hopefully you all see the Jedi mind trick to make you believe that you having the right to, as they say, abort your children is somehow a woman's right, or somehow is empowerment of the woman. Okay? And they're stating that we want these bans, meaning that there's certain places that ban abortion. They want the bans to be off of their bodies. Okay, I'm sorry. Okay, you guys said you couldn't hear the video. Okay, I mean you saw the visual. I'm pretty sure you all can kind of plug in what they're saying. This is the same old rhetoric over and over. You'll probably see, you've seen this rhetoric 1,000 times. Just the images themselves. I'm sorry you couldn't hear it, but the images themselves kind of give rise to okay, did not see the video. We'll probably play it once more. Let's do it once more again. But again, you all have heard this before. This is the same old rhetoric over and over when it comes to quote unquote women's health, women's rights. So it's nothing new. You can probably plug in the words verbatim without even listening to the video or hearing the video, but we'll play it again. Fair use. So it says, let's go back. So this is who they have as the mascot and the poster child of Planned Parenthood. Okay, I don't know this sister personally. I don't know what her views are, but if I'm to use discernment, okay, if I'm to use discernment, in fact, let me not go there. But I'm pretty sure we all can discern the spirit that's going on with this sister. She looks like the prototype for a particular spirit. But we're not going to go there for today's lesson. What I want to get is the message, okay? Our bodies are futures. Our abortions. Brothers and sisters, again, hopefully you all see the Jedi mind trick. Okay? Hopefully you see the Jedi mind trick. Now, according to the Bible, your children are your future. According to the Bible, your children continue on your name. Obviously, none of us are immortal. None of us can live forever. No matter how much we may pursue our own personal goals, our own personal achievements in life, as many of these sisters are sold, it's about you. It's about your career. It's about your life. Yes, you may buy into that, but as you get older, you realize that you're immortal. You can't live on forever. So you're going to need all that you have worked for. You're going to need someone to hand that down to. Now, if you bought into the philosophy and the ideology of what's being presented in this video and all over this website, the question is, when you get up in age and you can no longer produce, do not have the ability to reproduce, who do you hand down all that you've worked for to? Okay? So your children are your future. But yet they're selling this dream, they're selling this idea that many young women, like the one presented in the video, will fall for. Okay? Will fall for. And it won't be until it's too late that she'll figure out she's been played. She's been lied to. She's been sold a dream. Okay? Moving on. Okay, I don't know how to turn this up. It's just, one second. Okay. So, you guys, when you get the opportunity, you can go through Planned Parenthood. There's a lot of rhetoric, a lot of propaganda on here. And again, look at the poster children. This looks like a so-called, she could pass for maybe a black woman, maybe a so-called Latino woman. Okay? But nonetheless, these are the poster children. Okay? Here's one I want to highlight specifically. Look at this here. Look at this. This is the rhetoric.
What does that do?
Right. What does this have to do with women's rights? What does this have to do? I'm speaking about this in particular. I love my transgender child. What does this have to do with women's reproductive health? It has nothing to do with reproductive health, but it has everything to do with what? Eugenics. Okay? If you can convince your child that they are not what they were born, they will not play the roles that they were given from God Almighty. What are the roles? Let's get the book of Genesis chapter 1, verse number 26.
Genesis chapter 1, verse 26.
Here's the role.
And God said, let us make man in our image, after our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over the cattle, and over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth.
So the Most High made man in his image to rule, first and foremost. Okay? It wasn't given to transgender to rule. It wasn't given to a man who thinks he's something else to rule. It wasn't given to a woman who thinks she's something else to rule. That's first and foremost. Read on.
So God created man in his own image. In the image of God created he him. Male and female created he them.
Male and female created he them. So that kills the conversation of how many genders are there, how many sexes are there. According to the Bible, there are only two. I hate to burst your bubble. I know we're in a so-called progressive liberal society where you have to accept everything that someone says and everything that's in somebody's mind. Everything that someone says is a part of their, whatever they're feeling, their emotions, you have to accept it, regardless of how ridiculous it sounds. But according to the Bible, the sound word of God that has stood the test of time since the beginning of time. According to this word, there are two genders, male and female. Okay? Now, what was it given to male and female to do? Go ahead.
And God blessed them, and God said unto them, be fruitful and multiply.
Be fruitful and multiply. Reproduce. It was given for male and female to come together and reproduce. So, again, if you have a male who thinks he's something else, or a female who thinks she's something else outside of a female, and this is something they've been indoctrinated with from childhood, they themselves will elect themselves and select themselves to fulfill the goal of eugenics. Okay? Because a woman who believes that she's not a woman doesn't have any interest in reproducing, of laying down with the proper gender in order to reproduce. And the same thing vice versa for a man who thinks he's something else. So you are fulfilling the goal of population control, birth control, eugenics. Okay? And it's a shame. It's not until a lot of these children, speaking on this for a second, it's not until they get older till they realize that they've been played. They've been indoctrinated. They have been fooled. Okay? As you get older, mortality starts to set in. You start to really reflect and think about what you did with your life and how you lived your life. Okay? When you're younger, you feel like you can live on forever. But as age sets in, you start to really consider some things. And the last I checked, I don't see too many people who are up in age who identify as what this sign says. It's not too many old people that I've seen that identify as we see on this sign, the word you see there, the TG word. Okay? But moving on. Let's see, the poster children. Okay? The poster children for Planned Parenthood. Now remember, the woman who started Planned Parenthood says we don't want the word to get out that we want to exterminate the Negro population. And here it is. A few women from the Negro population are here as poster children, as mascots for Planned Parenthood. Okay? Why? Well, just like the sister we saw earlier in the video, let's just say many of these sisters you see here really, or at least they put up the front, that they don't desire to have children anyway. Why? Because many of these women are, let's just say they plan for the wrong team. Okay? So they don't desire to have children in the first place. Now, obviously, for many sisters, that's the front they put up. But in their heart of hearts, many of these women are broken. They're traumatized through life experience. So they may put up the front, this is for my choice, my body. I'm a strong, independent woman, and my body, my choice. And many of them may choose alternative lifestyles, what have you. But in their heart of hearts, many of these women, when you get the opportunity to really speak with them one-on-one, what they desire is a traditional family. Okay?
I was going to say also the thing that's not spoken about is the after effects that a lot of these women go through, depression and so forth, maybe even, to the physical harm and stuff like that. Those parts aren't spoken about. They show people smiling and everything when she already said straight out it's killing.
Exactly.
the face of the start of it said it's killing.
Exactly. Exactly. And that's the point I'm getting to. A lot of this stuff is a front. Okay? These people behind closed doors, yeah, they sitting up, as you mentioned, they're smiling and they're taking photo ops, and the imagery looks good. It looks like they're happy, they're living their best life, and they're not being held down by the status quo of society. They're now progressive, and they're women who could focus on themselves and their careers. All that stuff sounds good before the cameras. But behind closed doors, a lot of these women, okay, both, I'm going to say white women as well as black women who push this rhetoric behind closed doors, they are haunted. What's the word I'm looking for? Tortured or depressed. There's a lot of things going on with these women behind closed doors that you wouldn't believe. Okay? But these are photo ops. Okay? But
I want to look at the picture, the one on the what that would be left. What was that left? Look how proud she looks, like as if it's some kind of freedom from oppression.
Right. Head raised up high. Y'all can't. Let me make sure I can get the whole picture, because y'all can't see the whole picture. Okay. Let me try to get the whole picture in there. Okay. If there's a way I can adjust this, 1 second. There we go. That's better. Let me adjust this here. All right, that's not good. All right, 1 second. No, that's not good either. All right, let me do it this way. One second. So yeah, let's read that again. Let's read that book of Genesis 1 and 27 again. It's good? That's good? Okay. All right, let me get it back to where it was.
Book of Genesis, chapter 1, verse 27. So God created man in his own image. In the image of God created he him. Male and female created he them.
Male and female created he them. To do what? Be fruitful and multiply. Okay? So here it says, Planned Parenthood Health Centers stand with black women every day. Y'all see the Jedi mind tricks. You see the mind control. Planned Parenthood Health Centers serve more than 400,000 black patients every year. You mean the same black patients that the founder stated that she wants to exterminate? Are these the same black patients that are being helped every year by Planned Parenthood? Look at this. Stand with black women. Which means what? Again, Jedi mind trick. Meaning, if you don't stand with Planned Parenthood, that must mean you don't stand with black women. Okay? And these are the things they put out there as a means of trying to create some type of gender war or gender divide between black men and black women. And sisters, sometimes especially when they go off to college and they adopt these progressive ideas, these liberal ideas, they start to take on the propaganda. If you don't stand with me and my freedom, with my body and my choice, if you don't stand with Planned Parenthood, then you don't stand with me. Okay? Look at this here. A woman with a son, with a child. Okay? Giving you the image that this organization, this is what this organization wants to produce. Okay? When in reality, if it was up to this organization, both her and this child will be gone. Okay? Who let her through the cracks? Okay? And why did she let him through the cracks? And then furthermore, the question is, where is the father? Okay? There's never an image of a full black family being represented on these types of sites, okay, run by these organizations. One last picture. Again, this says it all. I don't think this needs much commentary. Okay, got the black fist raised, got the dreads, the sunglasses, the shirt to say melanin. Look what the sign says. The problem is the misuse of power, not the color of my skin. You see, again, the mind tricks. Okay, look at this. This is foolishness. Okay, so this shows you these are these images here. They sell these images because they believe when we see this, somehow we believe that this is a sign of black power. Okay, when in reality, when we see this in the truth, we see this as this is a sign of anarchy.
I'm going to show you something else that they did, Elder Lawya,
Go
to
ahead.
disrespect us. There's a typo in there. I don't know if you noticed it.
Okay.
But they literally got that front and center. You would take a picture of this knowing that there's this massive typo going on. Look at the second word.
What problem?
The problem.
Oh, wow.
You see how they do
Oh.
it? You see how they do it? See, it's
Wow.
real subtle, but it's like, look at this idiot right here.
Right, and this is why she needs Planned Parenthood. She
This
can't
is
even
why she
spell.
needs it.
What will she produce? The problem.
The
What
problem.
the hell? The problem.
The problem is, so this is how they do it. This is why they get us on the news like that and everything. They look for the worst situation they can find just to make us look silly.
And they got her standing boldly. Look at her. Boldly. Misspelled.
HD and everything. They made sure that's a nice picture.
I didn't even pick up on that.
It's cold. It's cold how they do it. It's real subtle. You know?
And it's like, look, they said, look, she needs Planned Parenthood. Because whatever comes out of her is going to be just this uneducated, infidel, just, look at this.
Ain't winning no spelling bees.
No spelling bees, no education. He will not be a rocket scientist. Or she will not be a rocket scientist that comes out of her. Okay? Now, this is not this is not my belief personally. I'm speaking more so from the perspective and highlighting these things to show that even in them, quote unquote, trying to empower us or claiming to empower us, they making mockery of us. Okay? Now, I bet you we get more hatred and we'll get more vitriol for pointing these things out than actually pointing out the fact that someone is funding your death. Okay? There's billions upon billions, maybe even trillions of dollars that go into your death, and we're pointing out the culprits. But we'll get the hate and the vitriol.
And the thing is, though, Elder Lawya, also, there's someone paid specifically to go through these images. I want people to understand that. So it's not like we're just picking on the image. They knew what they did when they put that image there.
Exactly. Somebody could have stopped and said, well, hold up. This is misspelled. And this is deep because I remember going out in the UK, the first time we went speaking in the UK. I know this seems like it has no connection, but we were speaking in the UK, right? And Elder Rawchaa asked a few of the brethren to go get some signs printed up. And they brought the signs, and I remember this like this was yesterday. The brother bought the sign, and it says something like water turned to blood, but it was spelled, I guess, with, based on the UK accent, they kind of speak a certain kind of way. So they spell things kind of similar. But blood was spelled not B-L-O-O-D, it was B-L-U-D. Now, this seemed like a simple thing, but you know, Elder Rawchaa, everything got to be just right.
Nah.
So he looked at the sign. He said, "Blood? What the blood? BLOOD." You know how Elder Rawchaa gets. So it was like we couldn't even use the sign because it was misspelled.
Mm-hmm.
And I say that to say that when it comes to the representation of anything, when something is misspelled, that automatically you automatically get discredited. Okay, so someone in a normal situation would say, well, hold up, this is misspelled. We can't have this as a representation on our site because automatically, with something being misspelled, we become discredited. Okay? But again, as you pointed out, these are the things they need out there to continue to push the image, to push the ideology that what they're doing is actually a service to the world because these people are uneducated. These people are stupid. Okay, they need someone to come in and help them from reproducing their stupidity. Okay, and going back here, you see all of this. You see the whole the connection with BLM, and they're trying to somehow associate Planned Parenthood and the work it does with fighting racism. Institutional racism is the pre-existing condition that has left black communities vulnerable to multiple public health crises. So I